Christian Agenda, Chapter 7, Brotherly Plea. Help with your prayers all those who never find the time or resources to be useful to anyone, who declare themselves affronted by ingratitude everywhere, whose eyes are cloaked in darkness and see evil in all situations, who dream of 1,000 castles in the clouds but do not light one candle on the ground, who will only cooperate in the ivory tower of personal interest, unwilling to descend the steps and collaborate with others, who believe themselves to have special missions and thus entitled to exceptional benefits, who use up precious time talking exclusively about themselves, who stop learning in the human struggle, who do not cease finding excuses for their faults, who want to live like orchids in the living room of the world, who judge themselves the necessary center of attention, who make a fetish of illnesses and obstacles. These are very sick people in need of silent help. Okay, so I think our first tendency when we read something like this is to say, try to locate these people out there, right? Those who need our prayer, who are in all these positions described here. But before we do that, which is very cool, very good, we should ask if we are ever in this situation, right? So are we at any moment of time talking too much about ourselves? Are we at any time unable to find resources in ourselves to help others, or finding excuses that can justify our behaviors? So maybe we're not the ones doing these two extremes, but I think the first thing that I personally like to do is trying always not to think about that as somebody else, and including myself in the group of people who actually need prayers. But those who are in this situation as well as ourselves, when we find ourselves in these situations, the way we need to think of that is they need our prayers because they are, or we are, in a moment, in a place of unawareness. People who are in these positions, they are dormant. They are completely disconnected from the purpose of life. To talk only about yourself. And this is something that's interesting because sometimes you see that in conversations with friends, people who are very, very, very centered, that they just keep talking about themselves and they're unable to open space to listen to others. And they are not evil. They just haven't learned yet the science of sharing, the importance of saying, but also the importance of listening. And so they are very self-centered in their own needs, in their own ideas, and haven't been able to expand too much outside of those boundaries, the boundaries of one's perceived needs. So one approach is to understand that this is a stage, this is a time, a phase in the evolution. These people are not evil necessarily, and they need, yes, compassion, they need patience, they need understanding, because before they make people miserable around them, they are in misery themselves. And the people around them will be miserable if they engage in misery, if they open themselves to that. But otherwise, we should keep praying for them, try not to judge. We too are a lot of times in positions that, you know, people that are ahead of us, it's like, how can these people still be in that place? And so the same way that people question where we stand, we question where others stand, but questioning doesn't take us anywhere. It doesn't do any good. What's more powerful in these moments is, again, compassion, understanding, understanding that it's transitory, understanding that, as it says here, you know, someone who declares themselves surrounded by ingratitude everywhere. Can you think of something more miserable than that, right? So just think of the idea of immortality, the idea of spiritual growth, the idea of phases, the idea that sooner or later everybody's going to have to learn, gives us a perspective that helps us to have empathy, have compassion, and also pray, so that they can be awakened and touched by the realities of life sooner than later, because that will make the path easier for them as it does for ourselves.